Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the final day of the PUBG Asia and Oceania qualifier for the World Esports Championship. That's a mouthful, Felix. We are here, nice and simple. 6 more games, Group B, and then we're sending 3 teams to the World Esports Championship.
Yes, we are. We've had some explosive games yesterday, and I think today might be even more explosive, to be honest. 18 teams. If you haven't seen the lobby just yet, make sure to check out the teams. Once again, we will be going through all of them in just a minute. But we gotta talk about the last day from Group B really quickly, because we had the most incredible last 3 games that I think I've ever seen in a best of 12 qualifier with Pakistan. That's the thing we want to talk about. I don't even know how to put this. Having a good day, I think, kind of understates what they've done. They had a 20-point. I think this is record-breaking for the IESF World Esports Championship qualifier. A record 20 elimination game in an 18-team lobby. What more do we have to say, Kobo? Really?
Crazy stuff from Pakistan, and a nice win to close it out in match 6. But they also got 2, 2, and 3 points in the first 3 matches of that day. So they really caught us off guard. They really came out of nowhere in the last 3. And depending on what Pakistan will see today, it's going to be a very clear affair, or it's maybe going to get interesting. Because if we see the Pakistan from the first half, Felix, then they're not even going to be qualifying.
Yeah, no, they're really not. As you said, 2 points in the first match, 2 points in the second, 3 points in the third match. So that's just... It's kind of the same storyline that we've seen with Mongolia yesterday. In case you've watched the qualifier games, Mongolia really had to put on a show in one of the last 2 matches, and they did. They brought it back and thus qualified for the IESF World Esports Championship in Riyadh later this year. Pakistan has to do the same. They want to stay consistent like they have been throughout the last 3 matches. They cannot slack now. There's too many runner-up teams, and I'm going to see them in a minute. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, do be reminded, it is SANHOK, Erangel 3 times, then 2 times Miramar to finish off the day.
Yeah, we had an interesting start on SANHOK, and we had some teams who started slow, right? We had a Japan who started really slow. We had a Pakistan who started really slow on SANHOK. They were able to claw back partly, Japan getting themselves 7th place at the end of the day, but today, you can't be starting slow. No team is in a position where they can really afford to give up opportunities here. You're going to have to start swinging, and you're going to have to start with getting points on the board. So SANHOK's not a map you can skip. It's a bit more crazier than the others. It's a bit less structured than the others, but you can't afford to let it slip.
Talking about point structure, nothing has changed, ladies and gentlemen. It's been the same point structure for the last 2 years, and... well, if this favors anyone, I guess it has to be Pakistan. That one round where they had the 25 points wasn't even the round they won. Just to give you guys a perspective on how crazy that round really was. So 25 points was the biggest round that we've had so far in the qualifier in general. So yeah, 1 point for each element. I think the rest of it is kind of self-explanatory. You do get the 10 points for chicken dinner. Talking about chicken dinners, we have the run-up teams that we might want to talk about really quickly. Team Indonesia and Team Malaysia, both of them have really been struggling to get the wins on board, but they have been pretty consistent. And Team Indonesia especially.
I think Team Indonesia was the team we expected to run away with this, but they fell off very hard in the last 2.
Oh, yeah.
They got 3 points in the last 2 matches, which allowed all the other teams to make a step up on the leaderboard. So... yeah, it was a weird day, Felix. It was very up and down for some of these teams, and the only team that I say was rather consistent was Malaysia, who started the day off with a win, right? 9-kill chicken dinner to start off their day, and then consistently got racked up points and placements. Elims and placements, that is. So they're right now in 2nd place, and they're the exact opposite to what Pakistan and Indonesia were. They were consistent, but they weren't extreme on either end of the scale.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I really want to stress it even further than what you said. Team Indonesia was kind of the one team that we said in the middle of the first group day was, in your words, gonna run away with it. And then we had these last 2 matches, and I quickly want to touch on them. And I want to ask you specifically, is that a fluke? Is that to be overanalyzed? Because I feel like everything else we've seen from Indonesia was so much better than the rest of it. Yeah. Starting off with SANHOK, we've seen such good strategy coming out from these guys. They were the first ones to really utilize vehicles in a correct way in an 18-team SANHOK lobby, which is something that I feel like as an esports player, you don't even think you're ever getting into. Well,
Yeah.
when point in your career do you think, well, I'm gonna have to prepare for an 18-team SANHOK lobby? That's just almost never gonna happen. That's kind of the first time for plenty of these players. So I thought it was really crazy the way they handled it. Super spontaneous, super flexible as well in their decision making, and that's what you need. Have confidence in yourself, and Team Indonesia has shown us that. Then again, the last 2 matches, I wouldn't overanalyze them, and I want to get your opinion on this.
Absolutely. I think it's very easy to overanalyze, and like you said, this lobby is wild. This lobby is different than what you're used to. Yesterday we had a lobby that was even more different from your normal PUBG Mobile lobby with 10 teams in it, right? 9 teams at some point. Today we have 18, but we also have all these different teams. Some of them are mixed teams from different organizations. Some of them have never played together. Some of them have never played against each other. So it's very easy to just slip up a little bit, make a small mistake, get caught off guard. A team executes a good rotation camp on you, and suddenly you're not looking all too hot. So it's very easy to make small mistakes, and it's not. I think it's forgivable to fall into those traps every now and then. The important thing is, can they show us what they are doing well when those mistakes don't happen, when they don't go out in the first circle. And if they can manage to do that, if they can continue to do that, we'll see them being a fierce competitor. But again, the lobby is stacked towards the top end.
Oh, yes, it is. Let's take a look at the current leaderboard situation. We have Pakistan with 68 points leading the charge. Malaysia right behind them with 63. They've had a pretty consistent run, just not as consistent as I would say Nepal and Indonesia have been. Nepal's worst round was the second. Actually, I think they had an even worse round. The second to last game that we've seen. I think that was only like a 2 or 3 point game. But apart from that, they've been pretty consistent as well. Team Indonesia, I don't even think we have to tell you guys any more about them. And then there comes the runner-ups, the ones that aren't currently in charge or really close to it, honestly. Because a 20-point difference as it currently stands between Thailand and some of these qualification spots, almost, with the top 3 going to Riyadh, is pretty big. I want to really assess that. We've seen that yesterday as well in the 10-team lobby, how big a 10-point difference can be, even with 4 or 5 runner-ups. And in this one, it's 20 points at the moment. So it really does heavily favor all the top teams right now.
It really does, and it is a big task for 5th to maybe 10th or something like that to catch that up. But it's really just, it feels like it's one more match ball, you know, for the top teams. It's one more game you can drop, and Thailand putting up a nice little 7-kill win like they did in the Shelter game, for example. I think it was even a 9-kill win. That already closes the gap considerably, right? So it's really just, you can afford yourself to drop one map while another team does really well. And when you have 6 maps, that can happen, and that's a nice luxury to have for these top teams. But it's definitely entirely possible to catch up. And even if nobody from that lower pack makes it, that's still 4 teams on those 60 points fighting for 3 slots, right?
Yeah, it is. Also, I really want to touch on Japan and Vietnam, 2 of the runner-up teams. I feel like they have... I have maybe overestimated them because I thought Vietnam was surely going to play a big part in the skirmish for these top 3 placements. At the moment, they have shown us that they can come back, right? But they haven't shown us that they really are one of the dominant forces in this lobby. And I really want that to change. Team Vietnam is such an experienced team. Some of these guys have played in global championships. And just generally, it's such a big PUBG Mobile scene too. Vietnam has always had really, really strong scene for just being one country. They've consistently shown us that they can compete in top international tournaments. So I really want to see them. Also, Japan. I know people have been underestimating them. I was the first one to say, hey, Japan, do not underestimate them. I know they've only really played in their specific region, but there's a reason for Japan in and of itself having their own national league. And that's because the region is pretty strong. Japan just generally is such a big esports nation. If not the esports nation, let's be honest, together with some of the other Asian countries. If you think of esports, one of the first one that comes to mind is Japan. They're so interconnected culturally as well with esports, so not to be underestimated. And them finishing off the day strong with only 4 points having originally been secured in the first 4 matches, and then topping it off with 16 and 15. That just goes to show you, even a team that maybe hasn't performed up until now can just come out of the gate swinging. And I really want to see more from Japan. They're one of my favorite teams here.
Yeah, and I think it shows both sides, right? It shows the potential to come back. It also shows the potential to really fall flat.
Yeah.
And it's something that these teams will have to handle. It's something that a team has to withstand. That sort of knowledge. Okay, we played really badly in the first 4, but we have what it takes. We know how to play, and we can get away with things, and we can get our points on the board. So they know that they can do it. They know that they have a chance here. And, well, they got to prove it today. There's only 6 more matches. That's all she wrote for the rest of this tournament. And like I said, they're on the back foot. And there's a few rosters in here that have a massive disadvantage ahead of them. They're more in the same pack as Thailand here. 40, 45 points around that. They need a big game to close the gap, and then they're still in competition.
Yeah, talking about rosters, let's take a quick look at the players playing today before we head on over to the very first match of Group B on this second day of the qualification stage. I mean, Thailand, these guys are known. Gavi, 2 at 3-ball, who's had 2 MVP performances, I do believe. RFQ, Natavat, Secret, and the coach. Deadshot in here before we head on over to Cambodia. The one team that's been underperforming the most, I want to say, Renza. Top is playing in there. We see Pov and Rio, who's, by the way, a sub. And I haven't really learned too much about him, honestly. I haven't really seen Rio play in any of the really big tournaments. So, but yeah, I'm talking about underperformance. Cambodia, it's got to be the name of the lobby. They've just not caught a footing.
Yeah, they've not caught. Yeah, they've not got the ball rolling. Brunei has. They were looking promising, especially towards the start of the tournament. I feel like they had some good rounds. They had some good team fights, but they haven't been consistently getting into the late games, and that's what's really been hurting them. Same is true for Timor-Leste. Starting the game off with a bit of a hero performance from a player that's not on this list, from William, and they were actually not able to follow that up either. So a lot of teams with signs of brilliance here, Felix, but not the consistency that you need. And when you want to finish 3rd out of 18, you need to be consistently strong and consistently really proficient at getting these points on the board. It's hard to do that, and a lot of teams won't be able to do that, no matter how strong the lobby is.
Yeah. Talking about strong teams as well. Bangladesh, one of the more experienced teams as well, just not as experienced as some of these absolute top teams, but they have a pretty strong roster too. Juniyad, Yish, Zaif, and Arab are going to be playing today. They had some lineup changes as well, if I'm informed correctly, so they will not be having that full A roster in this one. But either way, also a team that has been underperforming slightly is Laos. And I know these guys have been one of the less experienced teams in the lobby, if not one of the least experienced teams in this lobby. But we've also seen glimpses of hope from Laos. They have not been too shabby in some of these team fights. I know they only secured like 10 points, but there is hope. There is hope.
Sri Lanka, similar situation as Laos, not really been performing, not really been getting their footing in these games. They're forming the bottom of the leaderboard right now, but there's no shame in this. There's always going to be someone that's finishing towards the bottom, and like we said, we have some absolute massive hitters in this lobby. Bhutan is one of the teams that we maybe wouldn't have expected at the top of the leaderboard, but they really came out swinging, especially in game 2 and 3. So they've put their name on this leaderboard, and they're currently in 9th. So pretty much in the pack of runner-ups here at this point.
Yeah, and these guys have surprised me the most. The one round where we really saw them shine was the second round, 18 points. And oh my goodness, did they show us some PUBG Mobile? That was amazing decision-making from these guys. Maldives, also obviously playing in this one. They've been also a team that's unfortunately not performed in the first day. 14 points as they currently stand in 14th place. Likewise as the numbers they have. And yeah, I mean, is it too surprising? I guess not. These guys are also less experienced. But then again, as plenty of these teams in the lower part of the leaderboard, maybe a surprise win is still in the cards.
And here are the stars of the show. They've been running away with things yesterday. They were shown as absolutely brilliant PUBG, especially in game 4 and 5. And then they even closed out game 6, which was super solidly played by Pakistan. So they have a lot of fans in chat. They have a lot of supporters, and for good reason, because they've really been running the show. But Team Malaysia is the closest one and much more consistent at that.
Yeah, Malaysia, a little bit less frag heavy, but placements have been working in their favor a little bit more than for Pakistan, and they've been, as you said, a little bit more consistent. Even maybe on the same realm as Indonesia, but most of the times if they do face off, Indonesia has gotten the upper hand, so maybe that's why we're ranking Indonesia still a little bit higher, despite Team Malaysia being in second place above Team Indonesia at the moment. And we gotta talk about Team Nepal as well. That was so fast, and I'm skipping through all these names now because I cannot get enough time to talk about them. But these guys are amazing just as much as Team Indonesia. Two of the absolute runner-ups, 16 points for both of them in third and fourth place. They've both been equally amazing and will be the teams to watch for today as well.
Indonesia, Nepal, Malaysia, they're the big names here running up to Pakistan. Vietnam is in the second pack together with Thailand and Japan. We'll keep continuing that until the scoreboard changes massively. Vietnam, again, one of these teams we have big expectations for, but they haven't been able to go crazy like some of the other teams have. And you can't just play solid PUBG Mobile if you wanna get into the top 3. You really have to outperform, you really have to go mental. And Vietnam has not been able to do that yet.
No. Unfortunately, they really haven't been. They've shown us, same as Sri Lanka, I want to say, in Laos, some fights where they've really dominated, maybe like 1 or 2, and it felt like maybe that was the the breaking point for them, but it's really not happened, unfortunately. Team Japan, we've talked about them already, starting the day really weak and then ending it with 16 and 15 points respectively in match 5 and 6. So really good job coming out from Japan and bringing things back. Especially now Otto, I gotta talk about him. He's been the star player for Japan. I want to see him frag out more.
Lots of star players in Japan. Myanmar just 1 point behind. They've been solid throughout this. And they've been really just... I think they've been performing decently in most of these games. But like we said, right, that's not enough. You gotta go crazy. You gotta go mental. You gotta go ballistic if you want to be in the top 3 here. So again, lots of teams with good chances today here, Felix. Lots of teams that are in reach, but they have to step it up a little bit. And we know that it's not going to happen for all of them. I think we might see one of the teams out of the pack there from 4th to 9th, sort of between that Bhutan, Thailand area. One of them is probably going to make a really good approach to the top 3 today. Not all of them will be. It's just not possible mathematically.
I'm looking at the chat again, and I'm seeing Pakistani fans all around. Esports apparently is still the fan favorite, so shout out to all of you guys. I know some of you guys have reached out to us as well and been cheering for your team, even in our socials. So yeah, keep on going. I think these guys will need it, and you can tell it really helped them. Once again, the last 3 matches that we've seen in this group lobby have been dominated by Pakistan. So interesting day. Let's get to predictions. Let's get to the juicy part. Our predictions yesterday have been pretty solid, especially yours. You said that the top 2 teams will be Mongolia and also Bahrain, and these guys have run away with it. Also, Kazakhstan had a pretty good showing, but just wasn't enough, and you said it was going to be between these 3 guys. Now we have 3 spots in this one. That means there's potentially space for another one. I don't know, leaderboard situation-wise, it looks pretty easy to predict who could potentially be in the run for it, with the top teams already being that far ahead, but I still want to get your prediction on this. Any teams that maybe we don't have in the top 4 right now that you see potentially coming back?
I think if I had to, I'd say Vietnam, I think. But I am feeling, from what we've seen the day before yesterday, the top 4 teams really are better than the rest of the lobby. They were 2 days ago. Are they better today? No idea. But I think it's been very convincing. Malaysia has been super consistent. Nepal has looked crazy good in team fights. Pakistan just stood up from the grave and went insane and showed us things nobody else has been able to do. So it's really hard to say who could drop out of that top 4. But if there's somebody coming in, I'd say it's probably Vietnam.
Interesting. Yeah, it's especially interesting because Team Thailand is above Vietnam, but I've never felt that Team Thailand was one of the strongest teams in the first day. It's really weird. 43 points, but I've never really had them on my radar. I know they've won, I think, the 4th match that we've seen. Yeah. They had a pretty strong performance there. But then again, I felt like Vietnam tried to take more control than Thailand in some of these rounds. And I felt also like they've thrown away more. And I feel like if we would replay these first 6 rounds, I think Vietnam would be way higher up on the leaderboard than the 40 points they've been given. So I gotta agree with you, honestly. I wish I could say something else, but I also think Vietnam is going to be the team to potentially catch up to the rest of them. But then again, it's going to come down to one of these top teams essentially slacking. Because if you don't slack 20 points, you're just not going to catch them. If you consistently get your 5, 6, 7 points each and every single round, then there's not even going to be a potential to catch up, because you do 14 points in 2 games, then the rest, the other team has to do essentially 15 points in every single game, and that's something that we just haven't really seen so far in terms of consistency. Indonesia, the only team that really broke into it, but also had the last 2 games of the group day 1 in absolute shambles, with 1 and 2 points being secured. So I'm not so sure.
We're not sure. We're unsure who can beat the top 3, top 4 teams right now, but there's only one way to find out. We're going to be going into the games in just a few seconds here, guys. We're starting off on SANHOK, and it's enough. It's enough of the yapping. It's enough of us just blabbering on about the leaderboard. We're going to let the players decide who can close this out. 3 teams going to the Esports World Championship in Riyadh, Falix.
Yes.
I have no idea who it's going to be. I'm staring at the top 4, and I feel like all 4 of them deserve it right now. So we're going to have to let the players decide, I think.
Interesting stuff. We have Team Nepal. I think they activated their fan base because everyone's spamming Nepalese flags in the chat. So shout out to all the Nepal fans here as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we can go into the first match of the second day of Group B. It is going to be decided today who's flying to Riyadh, who's booking the ticket, who's getting the hotels, who's got a chance at the $130,000 prize pool later this year. And the first little instance, the first little kind of hint of who's going and who isn't will be given in this round, depending on what the top teams are going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for SANHOK.
It is time for the craziest of maps with the least amount of space and with 18 squads right on it. I'm already seeing Camp Charlie fairly occupied there towards the south. I'm seeing 2 teams at boot camp again. Thailand, we've seen that before, I remember. We've seen a bit of a 1v4 coming out of a DPS in that position. Pakistan going towards the northwest, playing it safe in Hatin. And yeah, there's plenty of hot drops here, Felix. I'm not sure which one we're going to be watching, but not every team has space enough to loot.
No, not every team is going to have space enough to do. We saw that in the first SANHOK game that was playing, but I'm especially interested now in Indonesia. Are we going to see that many vehicle plays again? Are we going to see that many smart rotations again? As we have the first skirmish that is happening, it is Sri Lanka and the Maldives, if I saw that correctly. First 1v1 trade, I think, has happened. Interesting enough, no one's really close to any of these players to potentially flush them out. Agent has now made the cross down from the tree line on towards the building, and potentially the first flush could come through. But look at this, Clumsy. He's already trying to close the distance. Can't do so just yet.
They have the man advantage in this close vicinity, but they don't want to let the res come through. They're trying to force this now. Cesar coming around the side. He's getting shot in the back. Doesn't have a whole lot of time. Wants to stick the res, waiting for the cover from his teammate. Agent knows that he's in trouble here. He's looking for a free kill. He hasn't gone for the res just yet. And now the crawl coming through. The flush will be coming through. They know exactly where to pick that player up. They know exactly where he is. And they're trying to play it as safe as possible, Felix. They're trying to keep this clean here with no chance for a trade, no chance for a flush. And it's looking good right now, but he finds 2.
Are you kidding me? Are you absolutely kidding me? Agent, what if you just told it? That was the mutant. That was a mutant. And well, I don't even think I've ever seen a frag with a mutant happening in esports. I mean, at some point, I think esports players would rather pick up a pistol like a P92 than a mutant, but in this instance, it worked out perfectly. I think 2 of the players didn't have any helmet on, and the mutant can be quite deadly with that burst in close proximity. And unfortunately for the Maldives, none of that is really going to happen, because none of the players are really close by, which is surprising to me. They should have had that information that all of the Sri Lankan players are around them pretty early on, but something, I guess, must have happened for them not to support their teammates earlier. Next hot job is coming in. It is Thailand in boot camp, and we've seen this before. Last time, it was a 1v4, just different teams, if I remember correctly.
I'm not even sure if it was different teams. I think it was...
Was it Thailand?
It might have literally just been Thailand. Yeah, I think so, but we'll see what they do this time. Secret already eliminated. Confirmed as well. You can see William there in the different distance looking in, seeing if he can do something with this, maybe steal a kill away or 2. But Brunei, they might have learned their lessons. They know that man advantage isn't everything, and they know they have to be careful about how to single out these shotguns. And we just saw that there, right? We just saw that in the hot drop versus the Maldives. Just having that third guy there can make all the difference in the world. If they only had 2, they would have lost that contest. They would have lost that fight. So manpower can be super, super advantageous. As we see, Japan is in a scuffle as well.
As Japan, they cannot afford to have one more bad round, as we have Chevy picking up the first one. That's a huge upset. If Brunei already does damage to Thailand that early in the second day, that is bound to be a really tough one for Thailand. They need every single round to count. We said it before, they need 20 points to even catch up to the top teams and even get closer to the top tier situation. Chevy gets another one. Oh, it's traded, but not a problem. You can see Brunei, everyone's got each other's bags, and they will not lose a single player. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a huge upset. Brunei clean wiping Thailand off the map.
That's very, very clean as well. Very methodical, good team play. That's exactly what you need. And Thailand is one of the fewer times where they come short in the hot drop. They've been hot dropping a whole lot yesterday, remember, or the day before. A part of their success was picking up 4 kills early, multiple times onto Japan, and one time onto Brunei. They were able to just consistently get points out of these hot drops. You're not always going to be able to do that. The more games you play, the more things are going to go wrong. And this is where other teams that avoid these risks early, like maybe a Pakistan, and can really abuse the fact that you've been going out early.
Really can. We can tell the circle, at least, doesn't really favor anyone just yet. It's completely centralized. Almost everyone is still in it. And still, at this point, I gotta say, less hot drops than I expected. I don't even know where everyone went to be able to dodge each other so perfectly. They still have 61 players remaining. I thought it was going to be at least 3, maybe 4 hot drops. Realistically, there is obviously enough compounds, but actual loot spots, really, really interesting. I think plenty of teams kind of, took survivability at a way higher priority than what they usually did, just to 100% dodge that hot job. And looks like it worked out pretty perfectly. So far, only 2 teams that have been eliminated, as we are heading into phase number 2.
Timor-Leste, southwest of that bootcamp area. They got to be a little bit careful about what's going on around them, as they are fairly close by to Nepal, a team that we respect massively for their team fights. So, not an easy position to be in. Shui, by the way, got himself all 4 of that. All 4 eliminations going towards him in that hot drop fight. That's going to feel good. That's going to boost the confidence quite a bit. Timor-Leste has found the first one, and it's Bangladesh who they found, so they might not even be aware that there's more teams around them. Ooh, this is not looking good. This is multiple teams. Cambodia on the top. Nepal in the distance as well. This is an absolute mess, and I don't think Bangladesh is getting out of this alive.
I don't think so. Ranza is back, so is Nang. They have been looking for a big round, and maybe this is the one they will find. Nate to potentially seal the deal, and this is so unfortunate for Bangladesh. They need a good round as well. Bangladesh is out of this one. Cambodia is there to secure plenty of these points. But look at them. They've been supported from the distance. I think there might have been Team Indonesia picking up a couple of frags as well.
There's a lot of third parties coming in there. Look at Vietnam as well, already positioned themselves. But there's a big, big piece of information here for Timor-Leste. They know about Nepal. Bogitio is the one that spots that out. Nepal was creeping up, slowly making their way on in, slowly figuring out where these players were to see if they could punish. Now William, he's going to get himself a freebie. And that is good news for Timor-Leste, bad news for Nepal, who thought they were just completely unknown on that approach.
Yes, it is. Japan having their first confrontation here. Might have even been the second one. I do remember them having a team close by really early on as well. But no one's really forcing it, and I think you don't have to at this point. They're in a pretty good spot in the circle. Resort is always a position that, if you're the first ones there at least, you can kind of take so many creative and dangerous angles that no one's really contesting you ever again afterwards. Especially if you sit towards the eastern side. But oh my goodness, Apollo gets spotted out. Rotating there, and he's still relatively far away. Look at this, he's only got bandages if I saw that correctly, so Japan needs to run to the rescue, and that's what they're doing. First knock has already happened. Flush is coming through, but I don't think he's gotten it. There is another team approaching.
This is a messy, messy fight. You can see Garnet holding down the angle with the QBZ. Does a good bit of damage. I think that's Myanmar gone.
Wow.
But it is Apollo almost confirmed as well. Look at the HB combined right now in Japan. They got 2 of these elims, but they've got to be careful, and they're very, very scared of any potential third parties coming in. Apollo Res should barely come through, and Pakistan should not be just in position to benefit, to sort of abuse the weakness. But when we're looking at the map, they already have. They've already out-rotated Japan. They've put themselves between them and the circle. And they're gathering information about some of the compounds in front of them that are absolutely free as well. So Pakistan is using the timings they get to position themselves for the rest of the game.
Yep, really good stuff coming out. As the circle is about to start running again, it is slowly but surely closing. It is also, I gotta take it back, not a good circle for resort. I somehow thought that was going to be better, but now both these teams will have to rotate off either way. And the only thing I'm really interested in is who shot at Myanmar in the first place? Was it Pakistan? Because I felt like they were getting shot from the west side as well. Probably must have been Pakistan, the sidelines.
Could have been a knock in there. Could have been Apollo getting a second one. Either way,
Maybe,
they did trade Apollo out, but they did lose a member in the process. Yeah, so there was something going on there. Similar things, right, for Cambodia there earlier on that hillside, just getting peppered from multiple sides. But look at Timor-Leste here in the middle. The brown icons we can see. Shout out to the observers for giving us a bit of map time. That is a wild split. That is a crazy split. Not because of the area, because they have one compound that's very strong and very big, and they're holding that as a solo, with the other 3 players just setting up on rocks and trees, just trying to be a nuisance, trying to be in between teams, catching players off guard. It's a strategy that can pay off. You might be able to pick a few players apart, but if you're losing members, you're very quickly going to realize that you don't have a point to fall back into.
Indonesia. They have plenty of space to fall back into, to put it in your words. Still looking for any kind of information over on that southwestern side, southeastern side especially. But they will have all the time in the world. No one's really around them, and it kind of reminds me of that very first SANHOK game, the methodical kind of very strategic play, knowing the space you can take is the space they will take as well. It's such a big part of Indonesia's play, as we have the next kind of, I guess that wanted to be a breach, as the next kind of breach kind of fails at least, as Bhutan picks up one frag. It is Mono getting that one on the board for Bhutan.
I think they were just ratting. They were just hiding out. They weren't peeking anything. They were just proning behind the corners, waiting for somebody to think that compound would be free. And they get themselves a free kill, get themselves an opening, and it's Laos on the other side that feels that pain. Not something you like to see. Now, Taipei losing one to Nepal on that western side gives a little bit more space over to Nepal, but Japan versus Malaysia is a fight that's very interesting when you're considering where those teams are and where those teams are on the scoreboard as well. Nade coming out.
It's a good nade on top of that as well. As we head on over to Hong Kong, China, and Japan. That's a really good nade to finish that first Japan player that was approaching. And then we said it's such an important round for Japan now. Apollo's right behind it. They need to win this game. The good thing is Hong Kong, China is only 2 players right in front of them. And we got the DBS though, and it picks up the second frag, and there is the trade, but I'm not sure it's gonna be enough because look at this, D-Light is approaching, He gets shot down though! Japan is clutching things out! Oh my lord, how important was that trade? How important was Japan winning this one? They've secured 6 frags already now, as Japan is slowly creeping up on towards the top 4.
He had it all there for a second. He had the 2 players knocked, the third one down to half HP, but he goes for the flush and instead gets taken out while trying to do so. Oh, that was close for Taipei. That could have been the winning fight. Now 4 players up on 4 eliminations for Pakistan. 3 players up. They win the fight versus Malaysia, and they might have a good idea that Japan is close by as well. Yeah, they heard that fight. They might know there's players up on that hillside, but first they have to reset. They have to heal back up. They have to make sure that they know what's going on around them. But if they can continue keeping that fight, they can continue taking that fight to enemy teams. We've seen what they can do.
We've seen what they can do indeed. And now we have them again, Bhutan. The only really troublesome thing for them is that it isn't really a winning compound. And yes, it does usually not end towards the southern side. It usually does end towards the north or west side, as you can see right here. I don't think we've ever had an exit towards Quarry, like an end zone towards Quarry. So I think that was kind of to be expected. But then again, Bhutan, yes, does have its circle, but it's not a compound you usually win these rounds in. You'll be flashed out relatively easily depending on the sidelines of the teams around you. So yes, Bhutan has got a good circle. Are they going to win this? We'll have to wait and see. But at least they'll get some good confidence going, knowing they can make it far into these rounds at the start of a game day, and that's what's so important, which is also Team Malaysia, Team Thailand, some of these runner-up teams have had such unfortunate luck now in this first round because, well, we said it yesterday. You want to start off a day really, really strong to get that confidence going.
Look at William, Timor-Leste. Next to boot camp, 3 of his teammates are holding a center compound, potentially the best compound in the game, and he's just out there vibing. Indonesia, meanwhile, they found Japan, they found a weakened team, and they found the first knock as well. Apollo, he's got to pull off some absolute wonders here if he wants to help out his team, but it's already fallen apart. He's already the last player up, and he's just trying to stay alive, find anything, get anything going. Now the angles are there, multiple angles for Indonesia. They're surrounding him, they're taking him down. They're once again using the cars, Felix. They're not shying away from that. And it's been beautiful so far. 3 elims is a quiet start for Indonesia, but they're on a side of the circle now where they have plenty of space. They have all the loot they could ever want, and they can make things happen from here.
It's such methodical play. It's exactly what we expect from Indonesia. They're the team that takes as much space as they can. The team that never really lets any single player get into dangerous territory without having backup. And that's what we're seeing right now. Yes, they do have the blue zone at their back right now, but it is phase 4 on SANHOK, so that's just naturally going to happen at some point if you don't go for deep circle center. The problem now is, with this specific circle, I think it's really tough for Indonesia to fight their way in. We're going to have to wait and see. Maybe they can get a third party going towards the northern side, but the less time they have, the more time they kind of rotate in very, very slowly, the less time they will have in a potential third party towards that northern or western side. Because a straight push into Timor-Leste, I think it's going to be so very tough. We'll have to wait and see what Indonesia decides to do. But first of all, they're going to be shot out in the open by IQ. He's been a star fragger for Pakistan, and the next one goes down as well. It's a 2-man from Pakistan that ruins Indonesia's round. Let's see if Pakistan can even do more damage than this. Now they're getting shot in the back as well. That's what I meant. Indonesia's position not necessarily super helpful for this one. And Yoni is going to secure these frags as well. It's just Razi left alive on that edge. And maybe, just maybe, Pakistan has almost done the miracle now, running in from the blue zone. Maybe that nade is going to seal it. If he throws it towards the left side of the rock, it could be absolutely perfect. Pakistan already having secured 6 frags.
6 nades in the bag as well for Yona, but it's the position from IQ that carries that fight. It's the backstab out of the blue that opens things up, that sends Indonesia just in the middle between multiple teams. Those nades are good, but they're not landing. The rock is providing sufficient cover. IQ now knocked. Yona is prodding it out. They might be able to go for that res, but where do they go from there, right? Plenty of teams in front of them, not a lot of cover, loads of open space they have to traverse. So any kill you get at that point, any elimination you get is worth it. And is worth more than trying to go for the zone. So Laos has to be extremely careful. And now Razi from the back does another bit of damage. He as well wants to get that fight, wants to get this closed out. A kill here is double points. It's a placement and an elimination. Yeah. And the players know that there's a good chance they will never make it into the zone from here. So any elim they can grab is massive.
Any more frags would be absolutely brilliant. With done, unfortunately, couldn't really do damage to the rotation of Laos. I have no idea how they made it through, but apparently they have, and they've also found a building, so great job by Laos. Unfortunately, now the nades are raining in. They've only got that one building, and maybe the shack right next to it, but even that shouldn't be secure, because Pakistan has probably got sidelines on it, or if they don't, Indonesia does at least. So it's still going to be a very tricky spot, but yeah, crazy rotation from Laos. That they made that rotation is honestly one of the craziest things I've seen in this round so far. But they will be cleared out one by one by the looks of it.
Part of the reason that they made it there is because Timor-Leste did not have a full team in that compound, right? They're not occupying every edge, and that's what allows Laos to slip on through. William, on a solo play by his lonesome, probably got stuck there, maybe didn't have a chance to move on out, but it does cost them here in the end. Vietnam now, they've had a very quiet game on the top of their hill, but they're starting to activate, they're starting to take these kills, and they're already on 4 now. Pakistan goes down in the kill feed, but they have made it into placements at least. And that's all she wrote for them. Good game once again for the leaders of the lobby.
I need some more though. Look at this, Vietnam. They're popping off as well. This could be so interesting. With a good game from Vietnam, they'll be right back at the top as well. And that would be another contender, Gozu. Looking for his second frag of the round with Lamborghini already having 2. I've been talking about Lamborghini for so very long, but deservedly so. He's one of the most experienced players of the Vietnam region. Everyone knows him at this point, even more so because of his global championship appearances. As we do head on over to one of the last phases that are really going to decide who is picking up this round. It is the breach from Bhutan now towards Timor-Leste. There's 2 teams already in the compound. Make that 3 now.
It's an aggressive breach. No pre-nade there for Timor-Leste. 3 players in 1 car. Could have been an absolute disaster, but he doesn't have one at the ready. Tsar, you're still outside. He's not made his way on in. He doesn't even know he's fighting 2 teams at the same time here. They don't even know that there's multiple teams in this compound just yet. Abu, he's right around the corner, but he's trying to make his disengage. He's trying to get the hell out of there, trying to group up with the rest of his squad and leave Bhutan be for now, as they are clearing out the corners where they expected him to be. Compound now evenly shared between these 3 teams, but that's going to be a topic we will revisit once one side of the road is excluded from the circle here.
More shots coming out from Vietnam, talking about the other side of the circle. The last team really standing towards the southern side. They've played so smart up until now. Question is, where do they go from here? If the circle does decide to shift all the way up north, they've at least got their one advantage, which is everyone else in the compound is fighting themselves. There's no one really to solidify their position there just yet, and that means no one's really going to be focused on them all too much, because they're going to be busy fighting each other. One more frag's potentially going to come on the leaderboard here as Ranza is by the rock. He peeks on top of it, though, and does some big damage against Guanji, but it's not going to be enough just yet. The sideline is barely perfect for Cambodia over there.
Oh, look at the drive-by as well. They're not messing around. They're not wasting any time. They know they have to move across the road. They know they can't get stuck on this hillside, right? The longer they wait, the more the compound's going to focus them down. So, good moves from Vietnam. This is the game-breaking move for them. If they make it across this road, if they make it to the north side untouched, they have a good chance. If they lose members here, which is easily could be happening, it's not going to be an easy entry. That's a double knock, though, into Bhutan. That's opening the door wide towards the north here.
Oh, that is so unfortunate. Bhutan was the one that breached the compound and worked out so perfect. But look at this. Vietnam is falling apart as well. Timor-Leste has got a say in this round. Even though Bhutan almost threw it away. And look at the zones. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, ladies and gentlemen? We might have a compound ending on SANHOK. What are this zone? The next one is going to center up. So that means it's literally going to end in between all of these teams.
It's going to end right on Timor-Leste as well. And oh, do they wish they had William with them right now? Do they wish they hadn't gotten so greedy and lost the player early? Vietnam, they get some of the reses back up, but they're in dire straits regardless. They have to smoke towards these buildings, and every team in the compound is going to try to hold them out. We're watching all these different angles, just peppering them. Abu, one of them, that they might expect a little bit less. Now, oh, it's looking like he didn't see Batman there in the grass. But it's a matter of time until they get spotted, and it's going to be incredibly hard to make it in. Abu, maybe the one player they can take out because he's a solo, but he has actually supported by Kevin, so it's just looking impossible for Vietnam here.
Yeah, it does look impossible. I said that the one good thing that could potentially play into their cards would be if everyone else would be fighting themselves, but no one's really... Everyone realized that Vietnam is the first team to move. And what a Molotov. Are you kidding me? What a Molotov. Is he going to survive? I think he's just around... No, he's not going to survive. Lamborghini is taking him down. Now the push from Leo's coming in. Oh, he might get both. He doesn't, though. Yatio is there. Secures the 8th frag for Bhutan. What a perfect round for them as well. They had to breach this building, and they're still getting elimination points.
They can't get the res because of the blue zone. You see the players are crawling. They're like, you have to cross the road now. Don't get stuck in the blue trying to res here. Timor-Leste, 2 guys in the building. Bhutan, 2 of them active. I'm not sure if they can get any reses later on, but for now they can't. Now Batman around the side finds one, makes things hard for Bhutan. It's Kevin from the inside. DBS, can he close the game out? He needs 1 or 2 bullets to connect, and that's all. That's all they need to get away with this win. It's a 1v1 for the win, Felix.
It will be so big for Timor-Leste. He's got it right around the corner. Just 1 shot needed. He's so very low. He's got the HP advantage. Now the shot comes through. Oh, my goodness. It is Timor-Leste. Out of all the teams that I think we didn't expect to win, it is Timor-Leste to pick up this very first round of the day. And ladies and gentlemen, what an ending. Are you kidding me? It keeps on shifting back into the compound. And then the one team that fortunately secured the very building in there that is going to win it as well. 18 points. Do we maybe get a little bit of a comeback, Kobo?
Aye. That was a close one towards the end there. Bhutan doing such a good job at getting across the road, making sure they clean everything up around the outsides. But if they don't get backstabbed by the Lao solo, if they don't take 2 knocks there in that process, I think Bhutan has a chance to actually run away with this. But, oh boy. Game starts off with a few hot drops, and it ends exactly in the same type of building, Felix.
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, also, yeah, I gotta come back to your point about Bhutan. I felt like if they would have... Yeah, if they wouldn't have lost these 2 plays against Vietnam early on, where I think I thought the sidelines were pretty obvious. I guess they mustn't have been for Bhutan. I don't think they realized how far east Vietnam from their position was already. If that wouldn't have happened, I feel like Bhutan would have won that round. I think they would have ran away with it pretty convincingly as well. They had Laos push them. They would have just been a 4-man stacked in the building. They would have easily defended them, and then they had to run out, but they had plenty of smokes to do so. So I think, yeah, that would have been absolutely massive. Let's take a look at some of these highlights once again. They're Pakistan. We had that really important fight from them. They survived for 3 plays, and they've also gathered plenty of elimination points.
A lot of the top teams doing exactly what we expect them to, right? Pakistan, convincingly winning fights. Indonesia, smart and aggressive with the cars. Really good stuff from them. And Malaysia, the one that really falls short. Malaysia, the one that didn't really get anything going this game. All the other top dogs really showed up today, including Vietnam there from the top hill line.
Yeah, really important round for them. They also played relatively methodical, just a little bit slower, a little bit less space being taken than Indonesia. I feel like that's been the biggest differentiator because Vietnam plays just as smart. I feel like rotation-wise, they just also haven't really had the circus to actually take some of these rounds, and there we can tell. It was a 1v1v1 actually. He got the last player from Vietnam and takes the last player from Bhutan to Timor-Leste. Out of all the teams, I've said it before, to take a round, I would not have Timor-Leste in my cards. That is one upset. That is one big upset actually.
It's a big upset, and it's despite losing William so early, right? Remember, I talked about them all the game. They were so split, they were so risky, and they were taking these risks on purpose. They weren't able to fully group in the compound, but they at least had their wits on them, and they decided to get all the players they could back into that compound. 3 players was all they needed to win that game. It would have been a little smoother. It would have been a little easier if they had all 4 there, right? But that's the way the game works. You take a few risks. Some of them will pay off. Some of them won't. You're really just playing the odds, and they deservingly win that in the end. But I think the more impressive thing there is Vietnam and how long they survived, how many kills they got. Coming down from such a high ground position when you have a compound with multiple teams holding you out is extremely hard, and they did a really good job at it.
Yeah, amazing stuff coming up from Vietnam. It's exactly the start into the day they need. We said they were 20 points behind any of the qualification spots. So what do you do in that situation, right? You need to pick up the pace, and to have that kind of thing happen in the first game, not even the second game, the first game, that boosts your morale to a degree that I think a non-player doesn't even understand. That is so very important. It lifts them up so high morale-wise, and also it puts away a lot of the pressure that they've had up until this point, because they realize, hey, to catch up to 20 points, as we said, there isn't a single round that they cannot score at, and to have it in SANHOK, one of the least. I want to say one of the rounds that at least in an 18-team double you can control the least is so massive for them. That's the one joker round where I feel like most of the times if you do not get good placements, that can happen even though you play a perfect game. And this time around they did it and played an almost perfect game. I feel like it could have been a little bit smoother. I feel like it actually had a chance to win it at some point. But that disregarded. They got plenty of frags and a good placement, a good portion of placement points. So what more do you want? Vietnam is in a good spot right now.
Exactly. And I think you can, at every single game, you can say, oh, they could have played that a little better. They could have maybe done this. They could have maybe done that. If they did this early. The game is so complex. The game is so hard. You can always do something to a slight little bit better. But really strong game from them. Really strong game from Timor-Leste. There's 5 kills on a single player. Is absolutely massive here for Kevin. And I think the other side of the coin there is a team like Thailand, right? We're not going to see them on these stats. We're not going to see them on the winner chicken dinner or on the team face-off. But they were one of the teams in the same spot as Vietnam, in the same spot as, I don't know, maybe a Timor-Leste, and they go out with 0 points right at the start of the match. They have to sit there for 30 to 40 minutes doing nothing waiting for the next map to start, it's rough. It's rough on the mental, it's rough on the momentum, and teams that start out strong, like a Vietnam here, that really just worked for the points they got this game, teams like Bhutan as well, and they will feel a whole lot better after this game 1.
This is so interesting. All of the top teams, except Nepal, didn't score, right? Nepal didn't have too much of a great game. Indonesia didn't have too much of a great game. Excuse me, Nepal had a great game, but everyone else, like Indonesia, look, the rest of them aren't even on the first page, so everyone's got below 4 points. But Bhutan and Vietnam had 2 big games. So the distance now, and I thought that wasn't going to be possible, except for Thailand, the distance now from 2 of these runner-ups has been significantly decreased. And we will have, if another good game happens, even just a mediocre game where some of these top teams do not score again, we will have immediately 2 more runner-ups easily in towards that top 4, top 5 placement points or just total points area. So really interesting stuff. You can tell here, Malaysia only 3 points, Thailand 0 points, Bangladesh only 1 point. So man, this is gonna shake up the leaderboard. What a round to start things off here at the very first game.
Yeah, and I'll say it again. Malaysia is the big name on the bottom side of that leaderboard, right? They were second or third place, I think, before this. I think even second. Yeah, they're gonna drop out a little bit, and they're gonna have to contend now with not being the first runner-up anymore, with some of the top teams maybe running away with it a little bit. We'll see that in a second here. But yeah, mental is a big thing, like you said, and it's going to be interesting to see what this has done to the leaderboard. 69 elims and 106 nades and smokes. I think that's pretty typical for our SANHOK with a lot of teams.
Yeah, it really is. Only 1 vehicle element might be the most interesting statistic here. We've said that we expected maybe more teams to adapt a little bit more, but then again, Team Indonesia has really been the only team using it, together with Vietnam, 2 of these teams that we know like to play very strategically, like to have a set game plan for each round, and that's what we saw as well. So good stuff coming out from them. Once again, I'm so interested to see the overall leaderboard. I think things are really different now, especially with Bhutan getting such a good game. I think they were on 35 points before that. Now another 15 points. They will be almost be close to 50, which is already, again, 1 good game away from... It is 1 good game. I'm not trying to downplay this here, but it is only 1 good game away from some of these qualification spots. And for such a big underdog like Bhutan to have that amount of pressure and still come out strong in this next day of group play that we have today, the next and also the last day, that just goes to show you once again, some of these underdogs are not to be underestimated.
Yeah, and I think Bhutan is one of them that has shown it time and time again, right? What they can pull off. Timor-Leste is one of them that has shown it, that they have what it takes. It's just hard to be consistent when the lobby is so strong. And 5 elims here for Kevin is going to feel mighty good, as he really does the heavy lifting for Timor-Leste to get them inside that late game, to get them staying alive in these compounds. And once we head to the player head-to-head, I think we're going to see him there again versus your favorite player in the whole wide world. It's Lamborghini, the longest standing player on his squad, and a very renowned Vietnam player.
Yeah, Lamborghini putting up numbers. I've been missing him just a tiny bit, but he's been pretty good. Let's take a look at some of these head-to-head statistics in terms of teams. What we can probably see Vietnam and Timor-Leste. And yes, we have 10 eliminations. Vietnam having to fight there through the southern side just a tiny bit more than Timor-Leste ultimately did. And then again, Timor-Leste didn't pick up all of the frags from all the players around them. Unfortunately for them, because I think that would have easily made maybe like a 3, maybe 4 point difference on the total leaderboard as well. But I don't think Timor-Leste is in the run at this point. I think they need another game like this easily, maybe even 2, to even get close to some of these qualification spots. So not trying to overanalyze this round either for them.
Yeah, exactly. You have to look at the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is looking okay for Timor-Leste, but so far they haven't proven that they can be consistent with these outcomes. Now, the overall standing is what you've been waiting for, and obviously we're going to see Timor-Leste quite climb a bit here, but we're also seeing Vietnam and Bhutan attempting to close the gap, but it's not so easy when Indonesia, Nepal, Malay, Pakistan especially, they've all kept scoring, right? And this is why we talk so much about how 20 points matter. The top teams are not just going to stop playing. They're not just going to start sleeping. So Vietnam big step on the leaderboard for them, but there's much more to come here.
And look at this. One good game. One good game from Vietnam, and they're already in closing distance. They've closed that distance from 20 to 10 points. And now, I would include them 100% and having chances too. Same for Bhutan. They will need another round. And yes, so far, we've seen very mixed performances from them. But you know, it's always possible. Get a couple of good circles like they have here in one more round, and maybe that lifts you up even further. Maybe you get the confidence to maybe take some isolated 4-on-4 fights early in the round. You win them, and everything looks completely different. So I'm really interested to see that and how Bhutan goes forward, because to me that's the biggest underdog in their top 7 standings. Yeah. Take a look at some of these other standings. Bangladesh underperforming. Kovo.
A little bit, yeah. It's not been their tournament. They've been okay, especially towards the start of the day yesterday. I feel like they were convincing, but not a SANHOK they would want. It goes very fast on SANHOK, right? It goes quick. You lose one fight, you get into a hot drop that you don't want. You get into a third-party situation you don't want. The map is more punishing than others, in my opinion. You got to finish your fights so quickly if you want to have any chance of staying alive and resetting. But that being said, the map goes fast. There's one more thing that goes fast, is it breaks. We are going to have a very short break before we head into Erangel to bring you the last 5 matches of this stage of the qualifier. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.